Guys, TC here with the third in the series on my crew and equip guides. Today we're going to look at one of the more difficult tiers, I think. We're going to look at the light tanks. So I'm not really going to cover below tier 4. Your tier 2, your tier 1, 2 and 3 light tanks are, they're your fun, kick about, have a laugh tanks. You equip them however you want. Whether you want to be, a troll in a Panzer 2J where you run a vent, a small liner, and a large toolkit, or whether you want to take it seriously and you play a Panzer 1C with suspension, vents, and a small liner, or a Panzer 2D with optics, small liner, and vents, things like that. So I'm not really going to cover anything below tier 4. Light tanks do only go up to tier 8, and depending on what sort of a light tank player you are, you will play them differently. So let's start at the baby end with the tier 4. The first real tier 4 scout, in my opinion, and it is purely my opinion, this is the Panzerkampfwagen 2 Lush, or Lux. It's seized up to tier 7s, so I would consider this a true scout. It's very small, it's very quick. This is the first true scout that you may encounter in the game. So let's have a look at this, and then what we'll do is I'll go up each tier and I'll pick what I think is my personal standout tank for that tier and tell you about my crew and equip. So at tier 4, your crew skills, you're probably, by the time when you're hitting tier 4, you're still fairly a new player. The Lux, you have to be careful as a new player. If you pick a Lux and you're grinding up that way because, this tank's really quick and that tank's really quick, and I made the mistake of that because I came from car racing to World of Tanks. I used to be a big Gran Turismo player and grid autosport and all that kind of stuff, so I just, what's the quickest tank and all, and I made that mistake because I got a Lux. And I came up against T29s and KV3s and I was thinking, oh my god, what the hell do I do with this? But I'm now nearly 40,000 games in, and I think I have an idea of how to play the game. So let's go through this. So crew skills on your light tanks from tier 4 up. Camo, and 6th Sense. I can't stress this enough. My first crew skills on the majority of my true scouts. So if we look at my RU, if you look at my VK, my T54 lightweight, my Chaffee, your T37, all of these tanks, as you can see, the first skills I always pretty much are guaranteed to put is 6th Sense on the commander and camo as far as the eye can see. You're a light tank. Light tanks have a fantastic little perk whereby they have an enhanced camo value when moving and when stationary, and it makes such a difference to the tank. It's one of the most powerful skills you can put on the light tank because you are the eyes of the team. When you're in the game, your responsibility as the light tank, as the scout, is to tell your team where the opposition is and how best to engage them and where your team needs to deploy to. Obviously, we're all aware of the fact that sometimes teams don't look at what the scout offers them. They don't see the benefits. Wargaming recently introduced this tank, the Black Bulldog, and as you can see, a lot of people will play this like a tier 8 medium, and that's because it's a premium tank. It's there to make money. It does it exceptionally well, but it's a tier 8 light tank. It's it's not a it's actually a light tank. It's not a scout tank. So your setup differs, but for the majority of all the other tanks that aren't that aren't in that, you run them. I would say as I have done. You put 6 cents on your commander. You run full camo across the crew. Your second skill camo straight onto the commander, and then I normally run a mix of skills for the second skill set for the rest of the crew, and then on my third crew skill, have I got one set up to show you? I think I do, don't I? My Chinese. Yeah, there you go. As you can see, I'm training BIA. So that then will give me the best opportunity to get a nice balanced crew setup. So irrespective from tier 4 up to tier 8, in my opinion, and bearing in mind, I mean, my opinion is coming from the fact that I'm quite regularly in the top 1,000 light tank scout in the top 1,000 scout players on the EU server. So I do enjoy playing them, and I have a lot of success and a lot of fun with them. Some of them I play aggressively, some of them I play passively, and again, my equipment setup, I can show you both sides of that. But crew, 6 cents and camo straight from the word go. Camo for the second skill. Other ancillaries depending on how you want the tank to be. Do you want it to be offensive? Do you want to dogfight with it? Do you want to just be a pure passive scout? It's entirely your call. But third skill, BIA. Most people will say BIA is the first skill and then retrain the rest. To be fair, you need to be getting on to 3 or 4 skills deep on your crew before you start, dropping it and resetting them all properly. Especially in your light tanks, you rely on that camouflage skill. It's so vital that you have a full camo crew on your light tanks. You don't have any armor. You don't really have any armor to speak of. Your speed, your mobility, and your stealth are your lifeblood. And knowing where you can spot on maps, you can't. Everyone will say, "Oh, there's only really 2 scout maps left," and Malinovka, Pokrovka, they're the scout maps. And to some degree, that is correct. They are pretty much the only true scout maps around now. However, and it is a big however, you can scout on any map. You just have to vary your approach. But having a well-tuned crew really helps. So now what we'll look at the equipment. So your setup. Virtually my completely go-to setup for my light tanks is always optics, vents, and a camo net. Optics, view range on the move. Because you're a very stealthy tank that keeps your camo bonus up when you're moving, optics means that you can have that bigger view range and that longer engagement should you need it, to give your team the best possible eyes, and you don't have to stop, spot, drive on. A light tank that's stopped is normally a dead light tank. It's a contradiction in itself, because sometimes the best way to scout is to get into a location and go silent. However, in this case, it's for me, it's all about, if I have to move, I still want to be able to provide eyes to my team. Your mobility should keep you alive. The vents, just because it boosts all your skills and perks, 5% is a lot to a light tank. And the camo net, 25% extra camo, it is just huge. It can make some vehicles pretty much undetectable to ridiculous ranges. So that's my go-to setup now. However, there are exceptions. There are always exceptions, and I draw back to the days of team battles, which is where I will highlight my AMX 1390 here. My AMX 1390 was actually the main tank I played in team battles. And as you can see, I use vents, optics, and a gun lane drive. I don't use. I didn't use a camo net in this tank. I relied on its mobility. I didn't really scout. I played it offensively. The same goes for my M41 Walker Bulldog. As you can see, the vertical stabilizer, the optics, and the vents. Still a really, really good scout tank. However, I've not set it up to be passive. I've set it up to be aggressive. Because a lot of people say, well, you hunt WN8 with these tanks, and if you hunt WN8 with your light tanks, you have to bear in mind that to do that, you have to do damage. WN8 is all about how much damage you pump out. As you saw in the T71 replay that I've got up on here, I did 10k WN8, fantastic, but I did nearly 3k damage. You know, you'll have seen previously, I did almost 6,000 spotting damage in a scout game and came out with 400 WN8. You know, I played a more important role in that game doing 6k spotting and enabling my team to do 6,000 hit points of damage than I did when I did 3,000 hit points of damage of my own damage, arguably. So I wouldn't, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm gonna run my light tanks, I want to get my WN8 up. That means they're not running them, in my opinion, correctly. You know, you're the eyes and ears of the team. You're there to provide vision, to tell the team what's going on. The one thing that I really detest in this game as well, and I really think people need to pay attention to this. Often, very, very, very often, you will see players in this tank, the ELC, the Early Learning Centre. It's a wonderful little tank. It's got a very, very potent 90mm gun that does a lot of damage per shot. It's a beautiful tank. It's a lot of fun. It's quick. It's mobile. It slides. It barrel rolls like no one's business with the new physics. You know, the two guys are basically dragging their asses through the grass. It's that low. However, a number of people go straight from the AMX-40 into this, and it's night and day, the gameplay and the number of suicide scouts that you see in the game. Scouting requires a fine touch. You have to look for locations where you can use your camo and your view range and hide from people, but not be hidden in such a way that you are not helping the team. Hide in a way that you help the team. You know, and to that degree, that's one of the things that started this off, because a lot of people who I speak to in my clan, you know, you talk about crew skills to them, and they're like, oh well, I just put any old crew skills on. You know, there are ways of stacking your crew skills effectively, and you know, we're not all unicums, we're not all great players, but for me, I found that this method works well for me. I'm able to get a balance of a good offensive vehicle with a balanced, nice, responsive vehicle as well that I can scout and I can do damage with if I need to. I know I compromise on maybe my DPM because I don't have a rammer, or my accuracy if I don't have a lane drive or a V-stab, but I'm not there to do that. My role when I play my light tanks, and I take it quite seriously, is I'm there to give my team the opportunity to win. I'm there to scout for them, I'm there to spot targets for them, I'm there to give them intelligence and information. And it's becoming a lost art, maybe because the game is moving away from cover and terrain and things like that, where scouts really used to come into their own. No map is unscoutable, but some are very difficult to get good scouts on. If you look at the classics, Malinovka, Prokhorovka and Salium, Airfield, and Steppes, they're classic, wide open, really nice scout maps. There's concealment knocking about that you just have to make use of. You know, Prokhorovka, everybody knows about the magic bush in E1. You know, if you get a scout in there and you've got a lot of TDs behind you, and the enemy team was also on the 1-2 line, you're golden as long as you've got a good scout there. That's why a lot of people drop a blind shell into that bush so often now. I'm not going to tell you all of my secrets on my scouting, because obviously if you see me in a game in a scout, you're going to know where I'm going to go. But the locations are there, you've just got to find them. And you just need to have patience. And I've put some videos up about team play. Team play, when you're playing scouts, you rely so much more heavily on your team being there for you, being behind you, working hard, making use of what you're providing them. So whenever you see the light tank drivers in the game, they're there to help you. They're there to spot for you. They're there to provide you with intelligence. They're not there to do damage. If a light tank is hanging back and doing damage, they're not playing it right. They're not helping you as a player. They're there purely for their own selfish needs. I might be harsh with that. I might be unfair with that. You might disagree with me. I'm afraid that's plain and simple. That's what you're doing. You're not helping your team. If you're sitting back behind TDs and heavy tanks taking sniping shots, unless you're on the likes of Mines, Remeber, Ensk, you're not helping. You're hindering. You need to be helping your team as much as possible, and the intelligence that you can give them, the view range that you can provide them, that's all vitally important. A lot of my scout tanks have 1 star on them. In the case of my Chaffee, I 3-marked it. That's how much I love playing my scout tanks. And that's why my gameplay is so important to me. I go on about it all the time in my reviews. View range, view range, view range. It's because I'm a scout tank player, pretty much. And when you're playing your light tanks, your view range is your lifeline. If you have a fantastic camo crew with a brilliant view range, a well-driven scout or light tank can be devastating. You can win games 15-0 if you have the best scout in the map, and you'll never know why or how. A good scout is worth its weight in gold. A suicide scout, you can get a shot of them. They're not worth it. So, that's my opinion on light tanks, crews, and equipment. My go-to: vents, optics, camo net. If you want a balanced setup, as I would say. If you want an aggressive setup, go with your vents, go with your rammers, go with your lane drives and your V-stabs. If you want a fully passive setup, go with your camo net, your vents, and your binoculars. They will give you a fully passive setup. However, you will pay for it if you have to get involved and get engaged. Your crew skills: 6th sense, stack camo, then camo, ancillary crew skills that will help. So if you've got a radio operator like the Chaffee does, situational awareness, view range, snapshot, smooth ride. Yeah, they're all very important because that can counter the need to put a V-stab on a tank. It's not the same, it's not as good as, but it's working towards it, and it helps you when you want to shoot on the move and things. You don't always have to equip your crew for a profile. The last time I drove this Chaffee, by the way, was last night on the Philo 5th birthday, so that's why I'm running 105 fuel and Coca-Cola. It's anything to win a race in the Chaffee, and this is my go-to racing tank. As you can see, it's quite wide and it's pretty quick. But yeah, so in recap, guys, for you, because I know we've gone on for nearly 20 minutes now. Equipment, fully passive would be vents, vents, binoculars, and a camo net. My balanced setup would be vents, optics, and a camo net. Fully aggressive would be vents, rammer, lane drive. You can swap the rammer out for optics if you have an auto-loader tank. Crew skills, irrespective. 6th sense for the commander, stack camo on the rest of the crew. 2nd skill for the commander, camo, stack any other skills that you want on the other ones that you think are going to be useful. So ones that give you better view range, ones that make you more accurate when you're turning and shooting, ones that make you get over terrain quicker, things like that. And then 3rd skill, BIA from the top down. That's my go-to setup for my crews. A lot of people will tell me otherwise. I use this because it's tried and tested for me and it works. And I have success with that setup. So your mileage may differ, but that's my mileage. Anyway, guys, I'm going to draw that to an end there. Hopefully you found this video series useful. Let me know if you have. There are 2 more types of vehicles to choose from to do. We've got the tank destroyer, and then we have the artillery pieces. And then what I'll do after that, so not next week, not the week after, 3 weeks time, what I'll do is I'll start going through the premium tanks that I have in the garage to show you. So the first one we'll probably do the tier 2 and 3s. Then we'll work our way up incrementally like that. So anyway, guys, thanks very much for being here, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.